How's it going, United fans? Welcome back. It's My United podcast. Talking about the Villa Man United game for Saturday. A few things to talk about. Formation. We'll talk about the lineup. A few players coming back. Hopefully, Ronaldo's fit after I think it was a hip injury that he had. A little chat about Zakaria. Some talk about Zakaria. Are we going to sign him? I'm talking 6, 7, 8, 9 million, whatever it's going to be. Should we just get him in? Should we just get him in and just get him signed and see how he performs? I think we should. Little talk on Cavani. What's the situation with Martial now? Is it happening? He was supposed to be going to Sevilla, but they couldn't afford his wages. Does that mean Martial's going to be here till summer? Donny, a bit of talk on Donny, and not just necessarily from the game the other day on Monday, where I felt like he came on and he changed the game a little bit. But I think equally, what I was going to say was not just talk about his transfer, but also to talk about that game that he did. I felt like he affected on Monday, and we got a bit more control, which is kind of prompting me to look at a formation that he could play on Saturday. But it's more what I hope he will play, and rather than what I think he will play. So yeah, we'll see on that one. A bit about Pogba. We'll if anybody comes on and starts chatting about Pogba, please do, and we'll chat about Pogba. But my feelings on Pogba are pretty clear, I think, as well as everybody else's who support United. Maguire most likely to be back on Saturday, with Lindelof on a bit of a ropey game. Just being rushed back from fitness, and Bailly now out with African Cup of Nations. Don't have much option there at the back really with Varane, so I think Maguire will be definitely back. And obviously the biggest one, the biggest talking part this week as well a little bit has been Rashford. His comments made on Twitter about his performances, and then his performance on Monday was equally just as poor. The feedback from the fans, the kind of feeling from the fans in general about that, and just like we'll just chat a bit about that and how I think and how I feel about Rashford generally, and then we'll chat about that, and then obviously just about the performance in it as a whole. Did a bit of a reaction after the Monday night game, did a watch along and did a reaction straight after that game. So don't really need to sort of talk about that too much, other than the fact that the performance was pretty diabolical, to be quite honest, and we need a serious performance again. We've been craving a performance. I think Ronaldo mentioned on or there was a comment on Twitter, I think he did an interview with Sky, whenever that was, but he mentioned in that interview that we've been craving a performance for the last 5 or 6 games, and to be honest, it's been most of the season. It's been pretty diabolical, but yeah, the performances this season have been absolutely woeful across all competitions, Europe as well included, and it really needs to change. So hopefully we get some sort of stability. We seem to be getting sort of a full squad back now, to a degree, other than the African Cup of Nations. The Pogba thing, I think it's run its course. I think, well, like I say, we'll talk about a little bit about that. Just wanted to get into the formation and the lineup really, first of all, and then we'll talk about some of the other aspects straight away. So let's just get the formation up and the lineup what I think he'll play. Obviously, I've got no real sort of indications that he will definitely play this, but let's have a look. So this is what I think he could play with. I think there's one or two differences that he could, I think things that he could play personnel that he could swap. This is a sort of a combination between what I think he will play and what I hope he would play. But I don't think we'll see this same formation necessarily, and equally, I don't think we'll see the same personnel in I think he'll go a little bit more defensive. Probably stick Matic in here with Fred, stick Ronaldo up on his own, and then we'll see a similar sort of makeup. But with McTominay's out, obviously through suspension. Shaw's out through suspension, so Tellers and Shaw and McTominay are out. So Tellers comes in for Shaw. Does he bring Matic in for McTominay, or does he go lone defensive midfielder with the opportunity of going a little bit more attacking? I think it would suit us down to the ground. I think we've got to play to our strengths, especially against a Villa team. We've just got to work hard. We go forward in numbers, we come back in numbers, and that's what we've got to do. It gives Rashford a little bit more potency more in the middle, which I think he would thrive a little bit more and he would get a little bit more confidence. But with his performances, does he deserve a spot? Will he get a spot? Mentally, is he ready for a spot there? Probably not. So there's some question marks there. In terms of the back four, obviously De Gea in goal. I think it pretty much goes without saying, albeit I think De Gea had one of his worst games. Wasn't terrible, but it was one of his worst games on Monday. Didn't think his kicking was particularly that good. I thought the back four coped relatively well on Monday, considering, and I've said this a lot of times before, and a bit this season as well, that this back four are getting more pressure that any of the top 3 or 4 teams are not getting in their back four. Their midfield are coping with a lot of the pressure. They're dictating most of the possession. So their back four is almost building from the halfway line, not having to endure countless amount of counter-attacks coming at them. So I think we've heaped praise on a lot of people, a lot of his defenders this season and last season, and anybody's going to struggle. You stick Van Dijk in a Newcastle team, he's going to struggle. He ain't going to look like Van Dijk in the Liverpool team. So I think I'm not suggesting that Maguire is up there with some of the best. I'm not suggesting that. What I am saying is that all round we've been pretty poor, and we don't really provide a good amount of cover for that back four either. So that starts coming a little bit more with some confidence in midfield. That back four starts to get a bit more confidence moving up the field and controlling some of the play, and then the fullbacks get a little bit more confidence to start linking up with the wing forwards and overlapping, and then things start progressing from there. So obviously back four, Tellez, I think goes without saying with Shaw being out. Varane in, I think he had a solid game. For me, he was my man of the match on Monday. I thought he was good. I thought he coped with everything that came down his side. It was solid. He made the right choices every time. He seemed to be in a situation where he had to make a choice. So for me, he was my man of the match from a United point of view. That is. Obviously, I think Maguire comes in. I think Lindelof's just not ready yet. He had some injury problems and obviously had that sort of heart scare. He didn't look right the other day. Made a few errors, and this season he's been pretty sound. So I think Maguire comes in. I think with him being the captain as well, as much as that's causing a lot of controversy throughout the United fans. And my take on it is a little 50-50 at the minute, how much is swaying towards that changing. I think the issue being is that a lot of the players that have been there for a few more years than Maguire are probably still quite inexperienced. Rashford, Greenwood. It's not a lot of players really that are getting in that lineup who've been there for more than a few years. Fred possibly, but De Gea is the only standout candidate really would be taking that captaincy off Maguire for me. But then it's difficult when a keeper is you capped him, because ideally you need somebody who's going to be outfield, who's got a little bit more say further upfield, who can make a point and get a point across. If you've got a goalkeeper who's captain, it's difficult to do that because they're only covering a quarter of the pitch. So, yeah. So Maguire's back in. Dalot right. It could be Wan-Bissaka. I think Dalot picked up a pretty nasty gash on his right ankle. I saw the blood from the video footage on from the game, and then I was like, well, that looks pretty poor. That looks pretty awful. And then I saw a photograph from that a few days after, or a day or so after, where he had it stitched up, and it's a pretty nasty gash. If you get a chance on Twitter, have a look through. I can't remember if it was on MEN or United Report, but yeah, there was some images on there, and it was pretty nasty how he played through the rest of that game. I'll take my hat off to him. I thought he was brave. It was a pretty nasty gash, and yeah, I mean, I can only assume when you pick up knocks in football matches and you sort of really don't realise sort of what you've done until afterwards. So maybe it just didn't seem as bad to him as he thought. But yeah, pretty nasty one. So providing those stitches hold up and he feels right to play, Dalot could be playing. I thought he did okay for the majority of the match. I thought he did all right. But when you're getting pressure like he's getting at the minute, you're getting, say, a dozen more situations to deal with than a Trent Alexander or a Andy Robertson on the left. It's gonna, or you look at the Man City fullbacks, they're not dealing with half as much defensive pressure as Dalot's dealing with or Tellers is dealing with, and so with that comes mistakes. You can't get, the chances of getting having a mistake at 1 out of 10 is should be unlikely for the quality that we've that are in the Premier League in the top 4 or 5 teams. The chances of then making a mistake 1 in 20, if you've got 1 in 20 chances to have to resolve as a defender, you've got obviously more chance in 20 chances than you have in 10. And in the minute, Dalot and Tellers and Shaw and Wan-Bissaka are having 20 situations to deal with as opposed to 10 or whatever it's, they're just figures I've picked out of the air. But defensively, we're dealing with far much more than teams ahead of us at the minute in the league. And that's one of the problems, and that midfield needs to control that and needs to reduce the amount of interceptions, blocks, tackles that our back four need to deal with. And it gives them confidence to go forward. I mean, Dalot was good going forward. I felt he did well. Made a couple of mistakes, but as I say, he's having more situations to deal with than any other, the most fullbacks than, above him. So in the Spurs team, the West Ham team, the Arsenal team, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, they're dealing with a lot less than we are, and that's the reason we're in this position that we are at the minute. So, yeah, so moving on from the back four then, I think he'll stick Matic in there with Fred, but I've gone Fred with the opportunity, really. I mean, what I did notice is Rangnick mentioned, what I would love to see, he could stick stick Bruno sort of more with Ronaldo and play Donny here and compact the midfield a little bit. So I've more like a diamond midfield, and I've Sancho, so like a 4-3-3 really, with the view that Fred's sitting deep defensively. Obviously, it won't be Rashford here, pretending this is now Donny. Donny sitting in here with Fred, sort of linking up with and Bruno sort of playing more of an advanced role with the front three, with a view to drop, but. What I would love to see is playing 2 up front and playing Bruno in here. So Greenwood and Sancho would have a lot to do, getting up and down. Rashford, I think, would have to drop to help and support the midfield, leaving Ronaldo sort of solely up front. But I think that to me would be something that would please the United fans. It's more attacking, it's playing to our strengths. And I think against Villa we've got to do that. As I say, I think he'll probably tuck in here and he'll play 2 defensive midfielders and he'll play something like that, personally, as I think he'll be too afraid to leave this back four too exposed. But, if he's brave, go with Rashford, let's play to our strengths, let's get goals. If we had Tevez, Berbatov, Ronaldo, Rooney in a team, I'm sure we can fit Rashford, Greenwood, Sancho and Ronaldo in a team as well. So, yeah, I think we should be doing it, and I think Bruno again has got a big game. Came off the other day with 10 minutes to play. He was a bit disappointed, I think, with his own performance. Not necessarily that he was getting subbed. I think just generally with his performance, it wasn't good enough, and he needs a couple more good games. Yeah, he was trying. He played a couple of round the corner balls. Defence had pushed up high, and he was first time passes over the top, and he played Greenwood in a couple of times. He played Rashford in a couple of times. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see this midfield without McTominay as well. I think that's an opportunity just to kind of, just explore other options in this team and just be more expansive. I don't think anybody's going to blame Rangnick for being a little bit more adventurous with this team. If this team works hard and this front 3 or 4 work hard, it's a good side. Fred's mopping up everything from left and right. Sancho's getting back to help Dalot. There should be no reasons why this should not work. But as I say, I can't see him sort of going too gung-ho. I think he'll tuck another midfielder in a defensive mid position, but it leaves us kind of thin. You know what you kind of doing by sort of pulling somebody in a defensive position. Again, ignore that this is Rashford and just assume that that's Matic or somewhere like that now. And you're playing more like this, where you've got your wingers, but then you've got two defensive midfielders. What you're doing is you're kind of not doing either or. So you're going defensive, but not too defensive, because you've still got your wingers who are getting advanced. So you've got kind of a big gap in here and a big gap in here when these two go forward. And if these two don't get back, you've got even more of a gap. But if they're not linking up with the wing forwards, then there's a big gap in these two spots, which Man City absolutely ripped us to shreds with last time when we played them. Bruno's got to cover a lot of space left and right and forward and back, so he's doing a hell of a lot of mileage to try and cover, because he's on his own sort of in this advanced role. He's not playing like sort of alongside the wing forwards. And then it's a struggle for these defensive midfielders who are doing a defensive job to join the attack. McTominay does it sometimes and he's good at doing that, but I think technically they're not good enough either. So a lot of the better teams with defensive midfielders, what they tend to have is people who are better ball players in those roles. Kante, Jorginho, Fernandinho, Rodri, Fabinho at Liverpool. You know, guys who are happy and comfortable to sit in that position but can play the ball. You know, John Henderson. You know, the list goes on. We've got McTominay and Fred, who aren't technically gifted, aren't particularly great at intercepting or tackling. Fred misses such a ridiculous amount of tackles. Sometimes gives the ball away in dangerous areas, trying to make silly passes out of his own half, playing crossfield balls, playing weak short balls, just get snaffled up. So technically in those roles we're poor. So when we play two defensive midfielders, we're no better in defence really, and we're no better in attack, because what we're doing is we're stifling Greenwood and Sancho because we're not joining them. If Tellers gets beyond Greenwood and Dalot gets beyond Sancho, and Rashford's able to sort of be more of a number 10, Bruno can sort of like filter in behind him, still cover, still help Fred out. Then we've got, you know, we start playing to our strengths. We start playing to the fact that Rashford is a talent. We start playing to the fact that we've got Ronaldo. We start playing to Greenwood's strengths because his class. We start playing to Sancho's strengths because his class. And Dalot and Tellers can assist with that. You know, Dalot and Tellers have got the fitness to get up and down. They've shown that. But we need to start playing to our strengths. And we're not doing that enough. So, yeah, it's like I say, we'll see. I've got no real sort of faith that I think he'll play sort of like a 4-1-3-2 if you like, but I don't think he'll play that. I think he'll go more defensive. He'll sit someone in here. He'll play a 4-2-3-1 probably, with Ronaldo on his own, and he'll probably put Matic in with Fred, which will be a disappointment for all of us again. So we'll see. So that's the kind of formation I think he'll play. Just to whip back to this. So, I mean, other topics of conversation I just wanted to quickly talk about. I'm going to do a short stream tonight, just do sort of 20 odd minutes if I can. So if you do watch this back, appreciate a like and subscribe if you can. And next time, if you do watch, then comment. I'll comment back, and if I don't miss it during the stream, I'll comment back when I get a chance to. So yeah, don't be afraid to hit a comment and a like, please. Yeah, Donny in that system. I'll just quickly shoot back to that. So what happened when? Again, I haven't got the exact players here, so rather than I'm not going to change these around. So if you do jump into the stream, then don't worry well, it'd be too late because you won't even hear this explanation. But if you do watch it back, great. So obviously Ronaldo wasn't playing. It was Cavani. Cavani came off, didn't he? There was a bit of chopping and changing, and basically Donny came on, and this is the why I think he should be a bit more expansive, because he did play a diamond. He did go like this, and he did play a diamond. He tried to get a goal, and that is a formation there that I think could work. He could play a little bit more with the wingers and play three in midfield with almost like a false nine. But I think it'd be better without a false nine and going wing forward and stick him. So Donny, when he came on, he created this diamond effect, really, which I felt was good. So we basically pin everybody. If anybody comes into this little zone, we pin them in and we win the ball back. It doesn't allow people past us too much, because the wing backs kind of pin them out a little bit. So they've got to somehow get through this diamond and through those spaces there. Obviously, playing balls in behind. That's the only way, really, from these areas deep, where balls in behind that you're going to get him. And hopefully, Varane comes across, Maguire comes across, and snaffles them out. So when Donny came on Monday and he played in this advanced diamond role that Bruno, I've got Bruno here now, and again the numbers are all over the place, and the names, but just for the sake of just explaining what happened on Monday, and Rangnick said that when we put Donny on in this and we created this diamond formation, it worked and we controlled the game, and we did, because it pinned them back. It pinned them where they couldn't run through us, because we made it narrow. So if anybody so this is Villa now, anybody trying to come through here with a ball, he's suddenly going to get pinned in and sandwiched in, and he's got to play a clever little ball sort of out here somewhere, which is going to hopefully get snaffled up. Or he's got to be looking, he's got to find his way through, which should, be very disappointing if he did. If they come down the wings with the ball, then Sancho's, somebody's going out there, the fullback's coming out there, and we're pinning him in again and making it difficult for him to get out. So the diamond, with the players that we've got, the diamond could work. It still gives us this opportunity to be attacking. It allows Greenwood to come wide. It allows Ronaldo a bit of freedom. So we can still play two up front, and we can still play with a diamond. So we can still be quite compact and narrow. We only have to play one defensive midfielder, which allows us to put another technical midfielder on, or attacker. And I think that'd be the best way to go, personally. Anyway, we will see. And we will probably know what's going to happen. And it won't be what I've suggested for the last 20-odd minutes. However, I would love to see Donny come on. Will he come on? Probably not. Pogba, I'm not going to talk about Pogba. I think Pogba should leave. Is it as simple as that? Probably not. Is he going to leave? I don't know. Probably, I would say. I don't really want him to leave. I think the massive issue that we've got at the minute is that we miss Pogba in the system that we're currently playing, because I think he would love to play a Fred or a McTominay with a Pogba, not Fred and McTominay, because I think what he desperately wants to do is play one defensive midfielder with a midfielder next to him who's defensively minded, but with a mind of I can go forward and I can play these balls, and I can be more Scholes to a Carrick, or a Carrick and Scholes played off each other, and one decided to sit and the other didn't at the time. They were brilliant with each other. But it's the opportunity where McTominay would sit or Freddie would sit and Pogba would go, and that's what he wants in this team desperately, and he's missing it. He's missing that. But he said the right things with Rangnick. If he doesn't want to play for United, then there's the door. So we'll see. Ronaldo back. Obviously, said a lot of things. Usually when Ronaldo says a lot of things, come match day, a lot of things tend to happen. Hopefully that is the case. I'm desperate to see Ronaldo score. We all are. An open play, do something brilliant. I think we all deserve it. We all deserve a performance. I mean, this season's been, let's be honest, woeful. I think it's the lowest we've been as United fans for a heck of a long time. We're not seeing class goals, we're not seeing class performances, we're not seeing good results. Ronaldo's come back. We're not even seeing Ronaldo scoring worldies or free kicks or this, that, and the other. We've been spoilt a little bit early part of the year, but it was last ditch goals and it's class and it's great in Europe and stuff. But we want to see it in the league and hopefully Ronaldo turns it around and we see a little bit of that. Maguire back again. Let's just see how he performs on Saturday. I'm not going to dig out Maguire, and that's not my intention at all. So I'm not going to dig him out and start saying he's this, that, and the other. I think we just need to see how he performs on Saturday. And if he does start on Saturday, he's got a huge game. I think we've got a bit of a tendency, really, to sort of put a lot of pressure on players, especially. I mean, not as fans, but I mean as a club, really. I mean, Maguire's had a couple of setbacks with injuries. He's been thrown back in the fray. Rashford was the same, been thrown back in the fray. Lindelof the same, been thrown back in the fray. There's only been Varane really, who's really taking his time back. Ronaldo had a setback. Is a weak enough to recover from a hip injury? I don't know. I mean, any injury that you incur, unless it's literally mild, I don't see how that puts you out for a football match, and then a week later you're good to play again. But obviously he's 36, and Ronaldo knows his body more than any coach in the world, and I'm sure if he's fit enough to play on Saturday, he'll play. But we just need to be careful with rushing players back, and Maguire's no exception. I think he's been actually a good example to that rule, that we need to be careful with just throwing players back into matches when they're clearly not ready. But we're not particularly spoilt with choices in that centre-half position. And I think, if anything, and we're talking about a midfielder and getting Zakaria, and I just thought, well, personally, I don't think that's much of a gamble. I think for United, 6 million is loose change. We should just get him and see how things transpire. But we need a centre half as well, screaming for one, and I'm not sure why we haven't got one. There's plenty of options out there that are better than what we've currently got. The Villa boys, Konsa, Mings, Connor Cody at Wolves. I love Connor Cody. I think Connor Cody would do a fantastic job at United. The list goes on. There's an abundance amount of talent in the Premier League at the minute that could sit in those positions. In terms of defensive midfielders, is Carrick just too much? Is it just a stopgap for really what we want? I think we should have got Basuma last summer. I've seen a bit of talk about getting Basuma this summer, but I think we should have got him last summer. I think he's class, and look how well Brighton are doing now as well. So he will go. He will go to a big club in summer. So if United don't get him soon, he will go to a Chelsea. He'll go to a Liverpool, guaranteed. Finally, just Rashford. Yeah, Rashford. I don't know. I've seen this happen before. We tend to big these players up that come out of the academy for obvious reasons, because they come out of the academy and it's lovely and it's nice that we United have the class of '93. Everything's been hyped around how class the academy is, and we want to see players come through and play for 20 years for United. And since those days, it just hasn't really happened. And I think we saw it with Welbeck. Welbeck got all this hype, started off his career really, really well, scoring a couple of unbelievable goals, got himself into the starting lineup. It just didn't do well enough, wasn't good enough, and that's when the slump started, really. We had a midfield issue when Scholesy and Carrick were coming to retirement. We brought Cleverley in. Cleverley was another product, and it didn't work with Cleverley. It got to a point where there was so much pressure on him to perform and to be at that level, and he was nowhere near it. And people were lying to themselves, pretending that he was. He's a Premier League player. Don't get me wrong. Welbeck is, to a degree. He's doing well at Brighton, but there weren't United quality at that time, and that's why we allowed ourselves to slip away. Rashford, I think, in all fairness to Rashford, I think he's got a lot more about his game than Welbeck did in similar positions. I think he's quicker. I think he's more able on the ball. I think he's more skillful. I think he's got more goals in him. I think he can improve more as well. I think Welbeck was pretty much a finished product when he found his way into the United team, but I think Welbeck's got levels. Rashford's got levels, and I think he's got a lot more about his game. I think unfortunately, the difference even in the last 10 years with players like Rashford and stuff, and I'm not just blaming him. I think there's a culture now. I think the culture's been there for the last 10 to 15 years with money and media and all that kind of stuff, and player freedom. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but equally I don't think it's becoming a really positive thing. And I think there's too much involvement from that, and it's distracting players. Players had a hard ride growing up into these big clubs, and a lot of some of them prospered, and the ones that didn't, unfortunately, just didn't hear about. And now players have got a voice with that. Rashford's got a future without a doubt, and there's a lot of people within the club clearly that think a lot about him, a hell of a lot about him. Things change, people move on, whether that's upset him. See Martial not move on. Lingard's not unfortunately done the right things. I don't know what he's done wrong, but he doesn't seem to have impressed since his loan back from West Ham, which I think feels a bit unusual. And maybe the club's just not the same as he once knew it. But you're professional. You're not a football. Maybe football's become something that it was once an enjoyment and has now become a job, and then maybe that side of it is becoming a toe and a drag for him. God knows. I mean, he just need whatever it is that he needs to get back. He needs to get it back fairly quick, because this club can't hang around waiting for people like him and Pogba and Lingard and Martial and players like that to decide when they want to play and when they want to get out of this attitude and this slump. And I think with Rashford, we all know there's a player in there, and we all want him to come back, and we all want him to do well. And I think what he's done outside the game is brilliant and fantastic, and everyone's saying that it's a distraction. I don't agree with that. I think that's got nothing to do with it. I think he's just genuinely come back from injury, a back injury that was pretty bad, and I just don't think he knows tactically in some of these games what he should and shouldn't be doing. And I think he's got a very, they all do at that age and they all do at that level, got a very high opinion of himself, which he should do. He's a professional athlete, used to winning since he was probably 7 or 8, all the way through to now he's early 20s, playing for Man United, and he should think that he's the bee's knees. And suddenly when it's going wrong, he's wondering why he's suddenly not the bee's knees anymore. And that's just when the players and the coaches around him have got to get an arm around him. But equally, he's got to do it himself as well. He's got to figure it out in his own head and realise that it's a mini slump that he's got to get out of. And he'll if he's got anything about him, and he's a player that he thinks that he is, and he's playing, and he wants to play at the club that he admired as a kid, and the players that were around him that he admired as a kid, and he wants to be similar to your Ronaldos and stuff, then he'll get out of it and he'll do well, because he'll believe in himself and he'll and get over that hurdle. So overall, obviously wish him the best of luck for a Man United fan's sake, and from a personal perspective for his own sake as well. As much as I love football, I love Man United, there is, if it's mentally getting to Rashford as well, then there is more to life. And but ultimately, obviously, we all want him back. We all want him back to winning ways, scoring goals. And if he's scoring goals, that usually means Man United are winning. So let's hope that happens sharpish. Other than that, guys, if you have watched or do watch back, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you won't mind. And comment as well. Just drop us a comment and I'll reply. Gonna leave it there, guys. I'll be back for the game on Saturday. Other than that, take it easy. Speak to you soon. See ya. Bye.